Welcome everyone. We are live with another episode of Level Up Law, where every Tuesday at noon, South Carolina Legal Services levels up your legal knowledge about an area of law that we practice in. I'm attorney Susan Ingalls up here in our Greenville office, along with our producer Kenneth Elliott, who's behind the scenes making sure everything works for us. You are viewing right now attorney Jenny Kaufmann in our Conway office. She's our public benefits unit head. Today, Jenny is joined by benefits paralegal Mary Lou Seymour from our Greenwood office and Melanie Maloney, paralegal with our medical legal partnership here in the upstate. Today's subject is at least 10 things you need to know about returning to work if you receive Social Security disability. And these ladies will be talking about that. But before we get started, we do want you to know that the information here is not legal advice. It's just general information for the public on this topic. If you need the help of a lawyer, you can always call our intake line here at Legal Services or apply online. And that information for how to do that will be provided for you at the end of today's presentation. Also, just to remind you, all episodes of Level Up Law are posted to our YouTube channel, usually within 24 to 48 hours of the presentation, and that is posted to our Level Up Law playlist on that channel. We will have hopefully some time for questions at the end of today's presentation. So if you have some questions you'd like to ask this group, please do put them in the question box. We won't be looking at the chat box, just put them in the question box. And I think that's all the notes before we get started. So here's Jenny Kaufmann, Mary Lou Seymour, and Melanie Maloney on at least, I'm sure more, but at least 10 things you need to know about returning to work if you receive SSDI. Take it away, ladies.
Well, welcome everybody. I hope you find that this session helpful and useful. We do want to pause for just a short time to recognize that today is the 80th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. We lost 2,335 service members, 1,143 were wounded. Civilian loss of life was 68 with 35 wounded. It was a tragic time in our history, and we just want to recognize the vets that are still alive from that horrible bombing and wish and hope that it never happens again. So I'm going to turn this over to Mary Lou Seymour, a very experienced and long-time employee of South Carolina Legal Services. Her breadth of knowledge of both the Social Security program and our program are invaluable. So Mary Lou, thank you for being here, and Melanie Maloney will talk late after Mary Lou. Take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. If you're receiving Social Security disability benefits on your own earnings record, you can test your ability to work and still be considered disabled. This is called your trial work period. Social Security does not consider services performed during the trial work period as showing that the disability has ended until services have been performed in at least 9 months, not necessarily consecutive months, in a rolling 60-month period. Next slide. The trial work period amounts in 2021, any month in which your gross earnings exceed $940 is considered a month of services. In 2022, this monthly amount increases to $970. Now, this trial work period does not apply to SSI benefits. This is just Social Security disability. Remember, TWP is looked at over a 5-year period of time. So it would be possible to have 2 months in 2018, 4 months in 2020, and 3 months in 2021, at which time, after you've used up your 9 months, the trial work period would end. And during the trial work period, you receive your benefits as always, and you receive your wages also. Now, once you complete the trial work period after the 9 months, you then get a 36-month safety net, which is called the extended period of eligibility, or EPE. Social Security has acronyms for everything, and this is the EPE. During the EPE, Social Security looks at what you earned in a month to decide if work is substantial gainful activity, or SGA. Social Security can deduct the value of work incentives like subsidies or impairment-related work expenses when deciding if your work is SGA. Next slide. Impairment-related work expenses, or IRWE, are the costs associated with items and services that you need to work. They apply to all Social Security disability beneficiaries and also to SSI beneficiaries. While the IRWEs need to be used for work, the items and services can also be used in your daily living. For example, your wheelchair that you use at your workplace may count as an IRWE, even though you also use it at home and when you are not working. Other examples may include your medicine, disability with related changes to your home or vehicle, like a ramp or something like that, or costs for a service animal. And this includes food for your service animal or vet expenses. IRWEs may also be out-of-pocket expenses, such as medical supplies and doctor visits. Once Social Security subtracts the value of these work incentives, they compare the result at the SGA level that applies to the year that you did the work. For example, if you are not blind and the work was in 2021, Social Security may decide your earnings are SGA if the gross income after the deductions is more than $1,310 in a month. If you're blind, the earnings level is higher, $2,190. And for 2022, it's $1,350, not blind, and $2,260 blind. If Social Security decides your work is SGA, you are still due payments during a 3-month grace period. After the grace period, Social Security will suspend your payments for months that you perform SGA. If your earnings fall below SGA during the 36-month safety net of the EPE, Social Security will start your cash benefits again once you report the change, and Social Security updates your work record. Once you start your EPE, it goes for 36 months. If you keep working after the end of 36 months, your SSDI may end. And remember, it stops if you earn over SGA in any month. After the 36-month EPE timeline is over, you need to continue to track your earnings and report to SSA, because they will evaluate your work activity, earnings, and other work incentives that may be applicable. If you're consistently able to earn over SGA following the 36-month EPE, your SSDI eligibility will end. Okay, so if your benefits end because you worked and had SGA earnings after the EPE ended, you can request that your benefits start again without having to complete a new application if you make the request within 5 years from the month your benefits ended. This is called expedited reinstatement. While Social Security determines whether you can get benefits again, in other words, are you still medically disabled, they can give you provisional temporary benefits for up to 6 months. Now, if you are reinstated under the expedited reinstatement, you receive a 24-month initial reinstatement period, IRP. After completing the IRP, you get a new trial work period and a new extended period of eligibility. If your benefits terminate again after completing the EPE, Social Security may reinstate you through a new request for EXR if you meet the eligibility criteria. And after completing the IRP, the Social Security can also reinstate Title 16, that's SSI claimants, whose benefits stop due to work, for a new request for EXR. If your EXR request is denied, your provisional benefits that you got for those 6 months will not be considered as an overpayment, so you don't have to pay it back. You could also appeal Social Security's decision to deny you EXR within 10 business days of receiving the notification. As you can see, it's very important to report your wages to Social Security to avoid any overpayments. You can report your wages online or by calling the toll-free number. You can fax or mail the information to your local Social Security office. If you receive SSI, there is automated toll-free telephone wage reporting service or a mobile wage reporting smartphone app. Next slide. Social Security has created several automated or electronic options for wage reporting. I just told you about the telephone wage reporting system. There's also the online tool within the My Social Security portal. If you want to report wages using the telephone service or smartphone app, you need to contact your local Social Security office and speak to one of the representatives. The My Wage Report is an online wage reporting tool located in the My Social Security portal. You first need to set up your My SSA account, and you do that at the ssa.gov site. And this allows recipients, deemers, and representative payees to report payslip information online. Next slide. Now, what if you don't report your wages? Social Security will eventually find out that you've been working when the IRS does their reports. And at that point, you might have already used up your TWP, and all of a sudden now you're in the EPE and didn't even know that it happened. And this, unfortunately, is often how we will get clients, is at that point when they've already used all this stuff up. And so it is very, very important to report your wages to Social Security. And also, like we talked about, the employment-related work expenses, to report those. Okay, that's all I had. I'm going to turn it back over to Jenny.
Okay, so one of the things, can you go back a slide, please? You have to keep proof of reporting. That way you can maybe avoid having to pay an overpayment back, as long as you have done what you're supposed to do. We've talked about overpayments in previous Level Up Law sessions, so I'm not going to go over that again, but it is really important to report your wages in a timely manner and to keep proof. If you report electronically and can't print the receipt, take a picture of it with your phone or on your computer and store it. If you mail your wage report to your SSA office, get a receipt from the post office. It costs an extra $1.50 or something. Or take a picture of the outside of the envelope with the postage on it. Most pictures taken with a smartphone these days have an electronic date stamp on them. Please remember that the SSA field offices where you would normally go and report in person remain closed to the public except for very limited emergency services. The other thing I wanted to remind you of, the earnings that Mary Lou talked about are your gross earnings. It's not the number of hours you worked or the number of days you worked. It is your gross earnings in a month. You have to remember that. People forget it and think that they can work 20 hours a week, but if you make $30 an hour or even $20 an hour, it could put you over the TWP wages or SGA. And now I'm going to turn it over to Miss Maloney to talk about the healthcare benefits.
Good morning. Thank you, Jenny. Thanks, Mary Lou. So it's clear in today's society, more people are receiving disability benefits and are needing to work in order to maintain their household expenses. But at the same time, beneficiaries are concerned about implications going back to work may have on their disability benefits, i.e. Medicaid and or Medicare. A lot of people get confused when Medicaid and Medicare are mentioned, so I just want to go over the basics of the programs and who is eligible for each program. So Medicaid is a federally and state medical assistance program that helps pay medical bills for individuals who are unable to afford traditional health insurance, have been deemed disabled by the Social Security Administration, or who are age 65 or older. And in order to be eligible for Medicaid, one must meet several eligibility requirements, including income guidelines, asset guidelines set forth by Medicaid. And please note that each state has different requirements, and so the requirements may differ. In 1987, the Social Security Administration enacted what's called Section 1619B, also known as Medicaid while working. So this allows people who are receiving Medicaid to continue working, continue their benefits. And if you're eligible for this, you have to meet the work incentive requirements, which are these 5 requirements. You have to be eligible for SSI, Supplemental Security Income Cash Payments, for at least 1 month. And you still have to meet the disability requirements and meet other non-disability SSI requirements. And it's really important to note that you have to still be disabled in order for this to continue working. Also need to have, if you need Medicaid benefits in order to continue working, and have gross earnings that are insufficient to replace SSI, Medicaid, and publicly funded attendant care services. Medicaid while working continued. So this means that the SSI beneficiaries who have earnings too high for SSI cash payment may still be eligible for Medicaid if they meet the requirements in the previous slide as well. And then there is a threshold that Social Security uses to measure whether a person's earnings are high enough to replace their Social Security, Supplemental Security Income, and Medicaid benefits. So to the right, you'll see the amount of earnings which would cause SSI cash payments to stop in the person's state. Remember, everybody in different states, it's different requirements. Average Medicaid expenses in that state. If a SSI beneficiary has gross earnings higher than the threshold amount for their state, Social Security can figure an individual threshold amount. And there's on the Social Security website where it lists all the different states and their threshold amounts that you can view at ssa.gov. So they look at impairment-related work expenses, which is what Mary Lou talked about in her previous slide. Requirements are a little different if a person is blind and they have blind work expenses, or if they plan to achieve self-support, or a personal attendant whose fees are publicly funded, or medical expenses are above the average state amount. Medicare. So Medicare is a federally funded health insurance program, whereas Medicaid was state and federal. For Medicare, this is where people who are over 65 may be eligible. People with end-stage renal disease, which is permanent kidney failure, which requires dialysis or a transplant. And there's a form that a doctor can fill out in order for that to be established through Social Security Administration. Or it is for persons who are under age 65 who have a disability and have received supplemental security disability insurance benefits for at least 24 months. Take note that that is just for SSDI and it's not applicable to people who are receiving SSI. So many people know that there are different parts to Medicare. Medicare Part A has to do with hospital insurance, covers inpatient hospital stays, care and skilled nursing facilities, and hospice care. Medicare Part B covers certain doctor's services, outpatient care, and medical supplies. And then Medicare Part D has to do with prescription drug coverage. Everyone pays a monthly premium for Medicare Part B. And then most people do not have to pay a monthly premium for Part A, but can buy Part A if they do not qualify. Medicare and trial work period. So the Social Security Administration allows you to continue receiving Medicare coverage during the entirety of your trial work period, the 9 months. Only at the expiration of that trial work period may your benefits potentially be affected. So Medicare and EPE, on October 1st in 2000, a new law was extended by Medicare coverage, which allows an additional 4.5 years beyond the current limit. This law is for people who receive Social Security disability benefits and who go to work. Under this law, as long as your disabling condition still meets the Social Security rules, so that's a big important factor, you're still meeting the rules on saying that you are disabled, you can keep your Medicare coverage for at least 8.5 years after you return to work. So that 8.5 years is included in the 9-month trial work period that Mary Lou discussed. After the 93 months, these former Title II recipients, which are people who are receiving Social Security disability insurance benefits, can purchase Part A and Part B Medicare coverage if they wish, as long as they remain medically disabled. If you pay a premium for Part A, your premium could be up to $471 per month, and that was in 2021. It'll go up probably in 2022. Can you go back? Sorry. The Medicare B standard premium went up to in 2021 to $148.50. It's important to note if the claimant's cash benefits were terminated because individual's medical condition improved. So if Social Security found that you are no longer deemed disabled, the Medicare Extension provision does not apply anymore. So every once in a while, Social Security does reviews and they do it routinely. So it is very important that you maintain your disability, and it's extremely important to appeal the determinations you receive from the Social Security Administration stating that you are no longer disabled within 10 days in order to keep receiving all your benefits, cash benefits, Medicaid, and or Medicare. And it's important that I note, I don't think I said this before, but some people can receive Medicaid and Medicare at the same time. And that if it's also extremely important to let Social Security know in your appeal that you're still working and have not undergone medical improvement. So we've talked about this a lot. Mary Lou talked about this, Jenny talked about this, but it is very important to report any changes to Social Security Administration. Even if you think that it's not something that they need to know, you need to report it to them. Social Security requires that individuals who are working and receiving cash disability benefits report their earnings by the 10th day of the following month. Due to the Title II, so Social Security Disability Insurance Benefit Program, counting wages in the month the wages were earned, not the month of the payment, it is important that reported earnings make it clear when the wages were earned. This could make a difference when determining whether wages exceed SGA, substantial gainful activity, in any given month. Promptly report any changes in your work activity to the Social Security Administration. This way you can be paid correctly, and the Social Security Administration can tell you how long your Medicare and or Medicaid coverage will continue after you return to work.
So thank you, Mary Lou and Melanie. This is going to conclude our session. One thing that we didn't tell you was that you may get a notice from the program service center that is in charge of your SSDI or Title II benefits. The field offices don't usually issue notices regarding return to work. Often they come from a program service center. The program service center that administers your benefits may not even be in the Southeast. It could be because it's based on your Social Security number. So for most people who receive their Social Security number in South Carolina, the notices would come from Birmingham, Alabama. So don't ignore a notice just because it didn't come from your local field office. The program service centers notices also have to be appealed. They can be done, that can be done online or by calling your field office. Again, the field offices are closed, so you can't go into that office to talk to them about your appeal. I just wanted to make sure that you understand that notices can come not only from the field office, but it can come from a program service center. So turning it back over to Ms. Ingalls to close us out.
Thank you so much for such great information to you as well as Mary Lou and Melanie. That was an excellent presentation, and actually there are no questions in the question box, and I attribute that to a really thorough presentation of these rules in a way that our audience can really understand how it all works, what they need to do. So yeah, thanks for a great presentation on what you need to know about returning to work if you receive Social Security disability. So thanks to y'all. And now I want to say to our audience, thanks to you for being here with us. And if you found this presentation helpful, and I'm sure you did, go to our YouTube channel, probably starting tomorrow. It'll be posted up there by producer Kenneth Elliott. That's our South Carolina Legal Services YouTube channel. And if you think this will be helpful to other people that you know, go ahead and share out the broadcast to those folks because it may help others in addition to you. We do want as many people as possible to get the important information that we bring to you every Tuesday at noon. And hey, while you're there, definitely like the video and subscribe to our channel so you have the opportunity to sign up for alerts and notifications so that every week you'll see when we post a new episode. And also be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Level Up Law on Tuesday at noon, where we'll be talking about returning to work while on SSI or supplemental security income. Those rules are different than what was discussed today in many ways. So definitely tune in for that next Tuesday at noon. Thanks again to our presenters today. That concludes today's webinar. Thanks for joining us, everybody.